A very good morning to all of you. A very good morning to Peter Bleksley. Peter, nice to see you.
Morning, Governor.
Thank you very much for joining us. You're going to be here for the next hour. We've got loads to do. Loads of police stories as well, by the way, that we can get stuck into. But I don't know about you, but I came out of this show yesterday to be greeted by the most ridiculous kind of scenario of Keir Starmer standing in what looked like some kind of armoured car with Emmanuel Macron. Look at this. People sent all sorts of memes to me to say, yeah, it reminds us of the Nazis coming into Paris, reminds us of, you know, Kim Jong-un in a little tank. I mean, it looked ridiculous, didn't it? We were watching it outside and I was going, what does he think he's doing? Why is he doing this?
It was a very strange look. You know, inspecting the troops.
Yeah.
Inspecting the troops. We've seen
like Inspector Clouseau inspects the troops.
Yeah. We've seen royalty doing it for decades.
Right.
And what they tend to do is walk up and down the line of troops.
Yes.
And maybe speak to a couple of them.
Yeah.
Have a little chat, nice little human touch.
But this was like, we have conquered your nation, and now we are here. No, sorry, don't about the German accent. But you know what I mean? It looks a bit like that, didn't it?
Yeah, he's seriously, he's taking his parliamentary majority very, very seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe in his head, he does think he is a conqueror.
Maybe he does. And also, the other thing that struck me was that as they were driving around, there's nobody there. The streets are not lined with adoring crowds cheering.
Roses at him.
I'll tell you why. Because the French population hates Macron. They think he's been a completely useless leader. He's hanging on for grim death, having lost the election. And there should actually be a completely different prime minister in the one that's in now. But it just looked really, really weird, didn't you think?
A very, very strange look.
And I put out a question, what does Keir Starmer think he's doing? And, of course, all the Labour apparatchiks were like, well, he's behaving like a proper prime minister. And he's going to see the closest ally that we've got to celebrate Armistice Day. Well, hang on a minute. The last time it happened was when Winston Churchill did it with General de Gaulle. Let's have a look at that, because he's there. There we are. And the point is that, you know, they did it because there's just been a world war.
Indeed.
And there's actually people there cheering them because they're very happy about the fact that they're, you know, riding around in the streets having liberated it from the Nazis.
Indeed.
But Starmer and Macron haven't liberated it from anybody.
No, indeed they haven't. And as you can see...
I mean, look at the crowd. Look at that.
Mobbed, wall to wall.
Thousands of
crowds
people,
rejoicing.
They want them to do it.
Yes, because the Nazis have been purged, beaten, defeated, sent back.
But isn't it a great kind of summation of the state of Keir Starmer's government, that when he does it, there's literally no one there. Nobody's cheering. Nobody's coming out to wave a flag. No one.
Who advises these senior politicians?
I don't know.
This is a big burning question for me.
I think it's that clown from McDonald's in Keir Starmer's case.
Well, I've met a few special advisors, and so have you over the years. And generally speaking, I've found nothing special about them, and I wouldn't take advice from any of them. So I kind of...
So apart from that, you carry on. Yeah. So, sorry, I'd like to have some special advice from you. What have you got for me? And you just go, no, I'm not doing that.
No,
it's just ridiculous. But he also looks, and he has, I mean, I do this thing there. I don't even have to say any words. My impersonation of Keir Starmer is now, he just makes these ridiculous noises. Got that ridiculous quiff of a hair, which has got more wax in it than Madame Tussauds, right? And he's standing there trying to look like he's wearing a very nice suit bought by Lord Ali, nice coat bought by Lord Ali, lovely tie bought by Lord Ali, lovely shirt, nice collar bought by Lord Ali, but he still looks like a plank.
Well, here as I sit before you, in glasses, suit, shirt and tie, all bought by Peter Bleksley.
Yes.
For Peter Bleksley, I need to make that clear.
Yes.
I kind of wonder, really, I think he's been media trained to such
not very well
an nth degree that he's now become incredibly robotic.
Yes.
And any semblance of a real human being that might linger in there somewhere.
It's been planed out of him.
Lost
out of him completely. Front pages today, very, very similar this morning. Final whistle for Lineker at the BBC. It says on page 1 of the Daily Telegraph. Even the Sun has got it on the front page. What a finish by Lineker. Gary's last season on Match of the Day. Now, you're a big football fan. Gary Lineker was a great footballer. You know, I will always say that. He was a goal. He calls himself a goal hanger. He was. He scored a lot of great goals, but no spectacular goals. Very good footballer, and actually a pretty good football pundit, to be fair to him. But in recent years has just kind of lost the plot, hasn't he?
Yes, he's got more and more woke as with each and every passing year, and he's got more and more pretentious, self-opinionated, and consequently a lot more irritating.
Yes.
But I'm delighted that he's finally standing down because, of course, this creates a job opportunity.
It does.
And this morning, when I leave here, I'm going for breakfast, and then I'm going for my interview and my screen test with the BBC to be the next presenter of Match of the Day. Not being a professional football person, I'll bring a hugely new, fresh perspective to it. Yeah.
But I have to say, and I don't mean this to be unkind in any way, Peter, but as a white middle-aged man, what chance do you think you've got of getting a job at the BBC?
Yeah, but I'm not going to identify as a white middle-aged man.
Okay. Are you going to identify as something else?
Yeah.
Why don't you say you feel like a woman? Why don't you go, I feel, like Shania Twain?
Yeah.
I feel like a woman. I fancy doing the job. I could quite happily turn up in a dress if you want. I think this is the way forward.
I will find the most persecuted minority on the planet, identify as one of them, and I'll be a shoo-in for the gig.
Maybe you'll identify as a member of the Taliban, who Keir Starmer apparently says he's not going to meet when he goes out to COP29 in Azerbaijan. That's another thing that he's doing today. No major leader of any major country is going to Baku because it's not a great place. It's quite a difficult place to get to. So the head of state of America is not going. The head of state, I think, of India is not going. The head of state of most big European countries not going, but Keir Starmer, oh no, shout me in. I'm trying to get the air miles up.
The head of the EU isn't going.
Yeah, right.
But the Taliban are.
Taliban there.
Now, I've done a bit of research.
Yeah. What's the deal with the Taliban? Have they got a ULEZ zone in Kabul?
Well,
are you allowed to drive around in those big tanks that they left behind, the Americans?
It's 1,900 kilometres from Afghanistan to Baku.
Is it?
Yeah. Now, I think that has given us plenty of opportunity to shoot their planes out of the sky. Because you can guarantee they didn't walk there, did they?
No. They might have come in those big armoured tanks, though, that the Americans left behind for them. You know, 100 million quid's worth of very, very expensive military hardware. They just went, yeah, you're all right, you can keep those.
Yeah. I saw somebody in the media the other day saying the Taliban never one to miss a photo opportunity.
I mean, it is incredible, isn't it? It shows you how ridiculous the whole thing is. That there they are meeting. And Ed Miliband, we saw him yesterday ranting on about why he was going to Azerbaijan, because it's another opportunity to convince the leaders of the Western world to actually make sure that they save the planet. Well, it's not actually, because most of the leaders of the Western world aren't going.
Was he cycling there?
No, let's have a look. Here we go. Have a look. Here he is.
Have you ever played 193-dimensional chess? That's what I was doing back in 2009 at the Copenhagen Climate Summit, trying to get 193 countries to reach agreement. Yes, it's true, I did look younger then. I'm about to go and do it again in Azerbaijan at COP29. But why? Because it's the once-a-year chance to put world leaders on the spot to act on climate change. And at this year's COP, you'll have a British government representing you that believes in doing its bit at home and showing leadership abroad. Everything we're doing in Britain, from Great British Energy to our Clean Power Plan, is about lower bills, energy security, jobs and growth. But if we're going to keep future generations safe from the threat of climate change, we've also got to work with other countries. This government believes climate security is national security. That's why I'll be going to COP29 to play climate chess and fight for Britain.
I mean, it really is. I mean, how many mistakes has he made in there, right? First of all, he's not going to meet world leaders because none of them are going. He's going to meet Keir Starmer, who he could have met in London, so they didn't have to actually bother going. He's talking about climate security being national security. Well, no, I don't think so. He's also talking about the idea that somehow energy prices are coming down under Labour. They're going up under Labour. They said they were going to cap them. They didn't. They're now higher than they ever were.
And bearing in mind that this month, the wind has not blown.
No, not at all.
OK?
No.
Wind turbines have barely moved an inch.
Right.
Through the entire month.
We had a caller the other day who sent us a voice note, I think it was. He was driving around through the Midlands where there are lots of, wind turbines, and he said not one of them was working. They were all still.
Yeah, because the wind simply hasn't blown.
Yeah.
Well, Miliband just blew more hot air than we've had actually powering the turbines this month.
And I mean, it'd be hilarious to get him and the Taliban in the same room, wouldn't it?
Oh, wouldn't it, Charles?
I mean, goodness gracious me. Also, of course, we've got the subject, as I say, of Archbishop Welby on the front pages. Bishop adds pressure on Welby to stand down. This is because the Right Reverend Helen Ann Hartley, who's the Bishop of Newcastle, apparently was tipped to be the next Archbishop of Canterbury, has basically said that Welby has to resign because he needs to draw a line under the Church of England's mishandling of abuse cases. And this particular abuse case is really, really serious, isn't it? Because this is a guy who Welby knew about, back in 2013, 2014, didn't really do anything about, and says that he's a bit sorry now, wishes he'd done something different, but didn't do anything.
John Smythe, his name is. He's now dead, fortunately.
Thankfully.
Yeah. Whose offending dates back to the 1980s.
Yeah.
Typical kind of predator.
Yes.
Gets himself into a position whereby he's got access to young children.
And we're talking hundreds of children here, by the way.
Just countless.
Right.
He actually, he inveigled himself into the church, into schools, all those sort of places where you get access to vulnerable young people.
Yes.
He had a shed at the end of his garden, in which he had a selection of canes with which to beat young boys.
Right.
And he had nappies to put them in case they bled.
Dear me.
Forgive me for saying this so early in the morning.
It's just awful, isn't it?
He was a monster.
Yeah.
Welby knew about him. There's some kind of dispute as to when he knew about Smythe and his offending, but what appears to be clear and unequivocal is that he was well aware of it in 2013 and did nothing until 2018.
Yeah.
Utterly unforgivable. And that's why all the pressure is building. Victims are coming forward in their droves.
And I think I'm right in saying that not only did he not say anything about it or do anything about it for a few years, but he also continued to contribute to this individual Smythe's, mission, as it were, wherever it was somewhere in the world, right?
These abusers leave a trail of destruction which quite simply sometimes never leaves the victims. It plagues their lives forever.
Yeah.
Ever and ever and ever. And yet again, the church, a scandal, people not doing what they should do, people not going to jail like they should do, and for as long as they should do, and it's an absolute scandal.
Because they're protected to a large extent by people like Welby. Now, it may well be that Welby didn't mean to protect him, he didn't know how bad the things were that were going on, but he should have known. And regardless of whether he was complicit in some way, shape or form, he now needs to resign in order just to say to himself, and also, let's put it into perspective, this is a guy who continually called for Boris Johnson's resignation, who continually holds politicians to account, who consistently, over the course of the years that he's been Archbishop of Canterbury, has had a go, particularly at the Tory party, not so much at Labour, because he makes out that they're ungodly. I think at one point he actually said that it wasn't Christian to vote Tory.
He has often adopted a holier-than-thou
very well
kind of
said.
standpoint.
Yeah.
And now it would appear that all of that facade is crumbling away.
Yeah.
I saw victim testimony last night.
Yeah.
I saw other members of the clergy calling for him to stand down, not just the bishop. Because the church is saying, look, if you're a regular kind of vicar in a parish where you are continually talking about safeguarding, keeping people safe within the church, you're doing everything you can, you're putting the name of the safeguarding officer on the front door of the church, together with a phone number, saying this church is safe for you to come to and worship and for your children. People like Welby are undermining all of that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Incredible stuff. We've got more to come. We've got so much to talk about this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a voice note, first of all, from Fran on Macron.
Hi, Mike. Fran here from Cleethorpes. Love the show. Listen every morning. You cheer me right up. Mike, what I want to know is, did Macron invite Keir? Or what I imagine probably happened is he rang him up. Monsieur Macron, please, can I please come and see you to get some good press? I am having a horrible time in my country. Cheers, Mike. Love the show.
Yeah, it's a good question, Fran. Got this from Maxine. It says, two-tier Keir went to Paris because the veterans here said they were going to turn their backs on him. Love you and your show. And John says, morning, Mike, if Starmer had been riding around London with a flag on his Jeep, would Sadiq Khan have banned it? Well, probably, or at least he would have stuck a penalty notice on it.